I learned very early to take intelligence as my greatest asset. I started out as a fighter, always fighting, always at war, at school, in the streets. I was always fighting. It took for me to get expelled from school when I was 14. Going to an optional school program with the drug dealers and the pregnant girls. And someone came along in the Nation of Islam and subjected me to discipline, order, structure, refinement, knowledge of self, commitment. That's when I discovered that I could also fight through intelligence once I fell in love with Allah.
Around half an hour ago, but the situation the NYPD is saying is contained. So it seems like now most of the people that are here are spectators, or they saw something and they want to, in that situation, they want to see how this ends up. Other people are this is their neighborhood. This is where they work. This is the area they walk through every day. So they're curious about what's going on. We did speak to several people who were leaving buildings around, not the building on Park in particular, but other buildings nearby, people who were locked down. One woman was telling me that people in her office were barricading doors with any object that they can find.
Stupid or dumb, huh? Play me like a dummy, like bitch, are you dumb? Are you dumb? Stupid or dumb, huh?
I have to use the live example to highlight what we have been going over concerning the Spanish Inquisition, doctrine of discovery, unum sanctum, 1492, where Muslims no longer ruled the world, but Constantinian Christianity, Roman corporation, took height at 1492. And since then, Muslims have been vilified. It's like watching an Indiana Jones movie. Booga wooga wooga wooga. Muslim is bad. They're monsters. They're vicious killers. Bloodthirsty. This is not a defense for Muslims. It's a neutralization of the idea that Muslim, Christian, or Jew has anything to do with a human sickness to do harm to other people, to oppress, to practice terrorism, acts of terror.
You called the escalation between Israel and Iran a propaganda war. We all know what's been going on between Israel and Iran. We've heard President Trump speak about it. You've been on the record calling it a propaganda war. Explain that, Candace.
Well, it was very obvious that this war was going to happen because the American foreign policy is dictated by Israel. And it was problematic that Bibi Netanyahu was increasing his rhetoric against Iran. And this is after they have effectively seized land in Syria. They were cheering what happened in Syria. We knew that it was going to wind up with Christians being mass murdered, which is what's happening right now. And what's happening in the Middle East, for those who aren't clear on this, is Israel is simply is expanding its borders, whether that be by carpet bombing women and children, which we have not had a person with power effectively state that this is morally wrong, of course. And now it seems they also want to annex the West Bank. What's happening in the West Bank, which has nothing to do with Gaza, is the individuals that live there are being traumatized by the IDF. And so, if you're paying attention, it's very clear that they have become increasingly radical, and they are effectively, as they always do, using the American military to fulfill their foreign policy interests because they are a small nation and they don't have the bodies to be able to accomplish that. They need the might of the American military to accomplish their foreign Middle Eastern objectives. And so, yeah, it was I am on record saying this for the last 2 years. We're going to war with Iran one way or the other because what Bibi Netanyahu wants is what Bibi Netanyahu gets.
How is that? How is that the case? Because listen, I'm watching the Daily Show the other day, and I'm watching Jon Stewart, who obviously is a supporter. He's Jewish, and he's a supporter of the Jewish community in Israel, of course. But he spoke out about how Netanyahu was saying the same thing recently that he said in 2018, that he said in 2015, that he said in 2011. And what's surprising to me is that there seems to be a community divided within the own Jewish community. You have some people who are about being isolationists, which is something we'll get into later, and don't necessarily support this. And then you got guys like conservative pundit Mark Levin, who I know that you know a thing or two about. You know, I know him. I've known him for years. And he is fixated on this. He believes that America should be involved. He believes that Iran is evil and that they need to be wiped off the face of this earth. And that essentially the threats that they've made, not just to Israel, but death to America as well, justifies the kind of things that we have been seeing. Do you have, do you take that into consideration when you're giving your thoughts?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that the public needs to recognize is this intentional conflation, and it's completely wrong, of Israel, the foreign nation, which is being led up by Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, and Jewish people. That would be an absolute nonsense if I sat here and I said, well, whatever happens in Nigeria, it means that if you critique the Nigerian government, that you're somehow against Black people in America. We would all say that's nonsense. But they have been very successful in this idea that if you critique what is happening in the Middle East and what actions are being led by Bibi Netanyahu's government, radical government, then you're somehow anti-Semitic. So it shouldn't surprise you to see that many Jewish people have taken to the streets. Not only Jewish people, by the way, Israelis, because as we know, even in America, you can be an American and not support what the government is doing. I am not supporting right now the decisions that are being made by the Trump campaign as it pertains to Middle Eastern policy. But they have a disagreement. You have Israelis taking to the street, boycotting, protesting Bibi Netanyahu. And similarly, you have Jewish people who recognize that there has been this wrong conflation, as if all Jewish people agree with the nonstop campaign of bombing in the Middle East, which has essentially been in effect since 1948, since the creation of Israel as a nation. And so I'm not conflicted or confused about what's happening. I find it to be as disingenuous as attaching, well, if you critique Black Lives Matter as an organization, this means that you're critiquing all Black people. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that whatsoever. I'm critiquing the Israeli prime minister. I am critiquing their actions, really their actions which have began since 1948. The more that I become educated about the topic, it has always been this despicable. It has always been a campaign of burning, of carpet bombing and theft, stealing lands. And when people notice what they're doing, they say, well, you can't say that because of anti-Semitism. That's ridiculous. Okay. You know how I feel about this, especially as someone who's been called an Uncle Tom and a coon for critiquing things that were happening within the Black community. I am not going to respond to name calling. I'm going to respond to the facts. And the facts are what Bibi Netanyahu is doing in the Middle East is a terrorist campaign.
It is not an expression of any religion. It is not. Since the Spanish Inquisition began, they have had a hard dick about vilifying Blacks, Muslims, people of color, anyone who did not fit the identity and description of the Roman Constantinian archetype. They've been doing this since day one, the propaganda. Give somebody a couple of bucks to provoke fear and hysteria in order to manufacture the opinion, the emotional sentiment of the people that then justifies a moral objection that must be announced or expressed from the government. That's how it works, people. And you're sitting there eating your fucking noodles, sitting on a fucking couch, watching the news. Oh, there goes a Muslim guy again. Oh, those terrorists, they really hate us. Oh, they want to kill us all. You're falling for it.
Charlie Kirk hosted a focus group with the chapter presidents about Israel. And it was the most bizarre 17 minutes of content that I think I've seen this entire year. They call it a focus group, and I suppose the intention was to hear from the kids firsthand. Of course, the big story of the past 2 years is that Israel is becoming extremely unpopular. That's to put it mildly. Anti-Semitism has become mainstream. Let's put it that way. Everywhere you look, on TikTok and on Twitter, people are sharing my clips, Jake Shields, Dan Bilzerian, Myron Gaines. And people are not just criticizing Israel. They're talking about Israel's role in 9/11. They're talking about Israel's role in the JFK assassination. They're talking about Israel's designs, which have brought America to war in the Middle East for 25 years. They're talking about Jewish power and a grand international Jewish conspiracy being perpetrated by organized Jewish groups that coordinate with each other on an international level. Everyone has become aware of this reality. This is not opinion. This is not hatred. Everyone, because of the liberalization of the internet in the past 2 years, because of Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter and the free speech on the platform, because of TikTok, because censorship has receded, everybody is becoming aware of the brutal reality, which is that Western civilization seems to be influenced extensively by an organized international Jewish conspiracy. Narratives about atrocities like the Holocaust and other historical things up to and including October 7th are being used as emotional blackmail to guilt the native populations into accepting a melting pot, multiracial, diverse, tolerant society. This has allowed a small minority that is both a religious and ethnic minority, which is 2% of the population, to rise up and become disproportionately represented and influential in media, Hollywood, finance, banking, government. And they use that influence and that power for nefarious purposes. They use it to consolidate their influence and their wealth. They use it to empower Israel. They use that influence to get America to fight Israel's wars, among other things. What's more,
General Wesley Clark, when he visited the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11, he was shown a memorandum that came from the Secretary of Defense's desk, Donald Rumsfeld at the time, prominent neocon, and it stated that the U.S. government, U.S. military is going to take out 7 countries in 5 years: Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. None of these countries pose a threat to the United States, obviously. They obviously pose a threat to Israel because they prevent them from accomplishing the Greater Israel Project, which is what the Likud party was founded on accomplishing. All of those countries that I listed, they all supported the Palestinian cause. They were all empathic towards the Palestinian cause, and therefore that made them a hostile and a threat to Israel. So this also relates to the Clean Break Memo of 1996, which was written by three prominent neocons, David Wurmser, Richard Pearl, and Douglas Feith. This was written to the incoming Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, in 1996, and it basically repudiated the 1993 Oslo Peace Accords. Instead of negotiating and using diplomacy and eventually a two-state solution for the Palestinians, the U.S. will just overthrow all of the regimes that are unfriendly or hostile to Israel. And those included, obviously, the 7 countries in 5 years, which was shown to General Wesley Clark in the Pentagon about 10 days after 9/11.
You're falling into the crowd of sheeple whose consent was manufactured to ignore the moral commitment because of the provocation of fear and hysteria through media and manufactured messaging, images, news headlines. And when we have fear and hysteria, we skip over our moral commitment. And we make impulsive commitments, decisions, loyalties, justifying the abandonment and betrayal of the matriarchal moral law that was telling us inside that something isn't right. Do you understand how this works? I want to go invade Iraq, but the people are not going to morally honor that because I don't have a moral justification for doing so. I want to take out Gaddafi, but I can't morally justify such an action. Media, 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 media. It has always been the way. And the microwave, the heating oven that keeps the food warm are the movies. The social conditioning of the algorithm of social media. Music. Females who don't stop fucking talking on social media. It keeps the food warm. And what I mean by the food, it keeps the state of mind warm with fear, hysteria, prejudice, insecurity, ignorance. And you believe everything that they tell you. You believe everything that they show you. These people are great at making movies. Look at Tulsi Gabbard's hair, for crying out fucking loud. It's a fucking movie script. What is this, X-Men?
Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb? Huh? Play me like a dummy, like bitch. Are you dumb? Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb? Huh?
We can't justify being fucking dumb. We gotta stop letting them play with our minds. We have to take back the control of our minds and stop letting people play with our minds. They say a madman is walking around New York City shooting people. And they got some loudmouth black girl on a television screen. Oh, he's saying free Palestine. Oh, what a coincidence. A person of color walking around with shades on, broad daylight, with an assault rifle, shooting people, talking about free Palestine. Bull fucking shit. Bull fucking shit. And what I mean by bullshit is it is not organic. You got to understand these kiddie porn watching. I hope they solve the Epstein situation. Y'all know what I'm talking about. These government officials, they will hire a dummy to play the role because it's too many dumb motherfuckers sitting on the couch, flipping through the phone, turning the channels, believing everything that they see and hear. Because we have lost connection to our clairvoyance. We have lost connection to our intuition. We have lost power from the spirit that gives us discernment. Do you understand that? When you have discernment, nobody can lie to you. When you have clairvoyance, nobody can play with your mind. And that's something that God blessed me with. It's something that God blessed you with. And that's why I warn you all out there too. Don't fornicate. Turn around from a promiscuous lifestyle. It fucks up your clairvoyance. It fucks up your intuition. It sets your spirit off. And you become a fucking dumbass. You give your power away. Your spirit has to have power to tap in. Can't nobody lie to you when you're tapped in. You see through all the lies. You see through all of the skirts. And I'm here to tell you now, don't start that shit. Stay fucking focused. I've been showing you the things I've been showing you for a reason. The Spanish Inquisition is well alive. It is active. Unum Sanctum, the Vatican, is still calling the shots. The doctrine of discovery is well alive. What do you think Israel is trying to do? They can't justify in the open doctrine of discovery. But they're expressing it with their union of corporate entities under the guise of nations and countries. They're trying to force their way into a territory that does not belong to them. Just like what happened here until they had a peace treaty with the Moors, the first peace treaty of this nation. Israel wants that same situation. They want that same opportunity. The corporation of Israel, understand, there's a difference. And they want to do it on the blood and innocence of Palestinians and whoever's there in the way. I'm not here to promote Muslims. I'm here to call it out and shine a light on what it really is. And as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the ending, as it is now. What they were doing then is what they're doing now. And Israel is trying to get their self established through the same piracy, through the same muscle, through the same force of doctrine of discovery, which doctrine of discovery is, nigga, I pull up. If you don't like it, I will call the Vatican. I'll call the Queen of England. I'll call Spain. And they'll pull up with 100 soldiers to get in that ass. It's the same thing. This is doctrine of discovery in your face. This is the smear campaigns and propaganda of the Spanish Inquisition that ran all throughout Europe and Northern Africa. It's the same propaganda against Muslims, the same smearing and lies in media that happened in Spain. They're doing the same thing. These people are not that bright. They don't have too many ideas. They do the same things. Y'all don't hear me. There's a codependency that some people have on these institutions that keep lying to you. Believing what you want them to believe. They convince you that Gaddafi was a bad person. Oh, because he's Muslim? Because he's pro-Africa? Or was it because he wanted to give a few $1 billion to African Americans through Farrakhan, but they blocked it and stopped it? Or was it because he wanted to unify the currency? Or was it because he was supporting those who got married with land and property, free education, medical? I don't know why they didn't like the guy. Saddam Hussein, weapons of mass destruction. Did it turn out to be true? Of course not. Of course it didn't. And Donald Trump repeated the same thing recently when he jumped the gun. Y'all don't see the patterns here? And who's working for who? Who's really in charge? The Pope is still their daddy. The Pope got his nuts on a fucking forehead, nigga. Yeah, the Pope got his sweaty nuts on a fucking forehead. Yeah, you gonna do what the fuck I tell you to do. They're so desperate to get the American people to side with Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu's funky ass. They're willing to make up these childish ass stories, movies and theatrics, and put it all over the news. A CIA agent cosplay. Written script. And what's sad is that majority of the people is actually going to believe that these are natural occurring, real, organic events. That's the part that's fucking scary. It's how many dead corpses think that they're actually living beings and they're not.
Or this group is inspired by a religion which is contrary to ours. Although much has been said about Judeo-Christianity, people have learned that this is not only not a real thing, but actually an oxymoron. Judaism is defined by its rejection and actually hatred of Christ and Christians, and Christianity is defined by its deification of Christ, and the Christians are his followers. All of this has come to light. Because censorship and cancel culture has gone away, because the truth is no longer being suppressed actively and intensively, now everybody is becoming educated and aware. As a result, people no longer support Israel. People are sympathizing with Palestine. And this has created a real problem because a massive operation has been built up in America to lobby our people and our government on Israel's behalf. Because if we support Israel, we vote for pro-Israel candidates, or at the minimum, look the other way. And the money and the support and the guns and the wars keep flowing in Israel's direction.
You heard what he said. You heard what he fucking said. Cancel culture, which is a regime upheld by feminists and liberals and Zionists. Cancel culture. The South Node Libra transit that I emphasized for 18 months. The transit that made everybody run away from me, that made everybody hate me, because I told the fucking truth about it. I had the guts, the gander, the nerve to point out, to call out feminism, liberalism, and the hypocrisy in its claims. Now that cancel culture is over, you heard it. I'm not the only one who observed this. Feminism has fallen. Liberalism has lost its leverage. Now people are starting to see the truth about females' subscription to feminism, which does not include all females. It damn sure includes a majority. And there's a difference between females and women. I didn't say women, I said females. Subscription to feminism. People are calling it out. People are sick and tired of it. They're not dealing with it. Liberalism is catching a royal middle finger from this nation. And so is Israel. People are seeing the truth about Israel. And it took Donald Trump, who first required the Gemini Mars retrograde transit that manifested Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter, which was the first reintroduction of free speech. It was the first shot from the muzzle of the Civil War in the ethereal that polarized divine masculine and feminine through Venus and Mars. Were you paying attention? Were you paying attention? The infamous astrologist is accurate. So accurate. Not because I'm wise, because I comprehend the planets and stars.
Now that Israel is losing that supportive constituency, not just on the left wing, but increasingly on the right wing, among evangelical Christians, especially among young people of every stripe, this is becoming a big long-term problem for Israel. And so it is in response to this problem for them, not for us, it is in response to this problem for the Israelis that Charlie Kirk hosted a focus group to give a hearing, let's say, to give a fair hearing to the students, to the radicalized youth that are apparently so anti-Israel. And they call.
I would also add that it would include the Benjamin Netanyahu interview on the Nelk Boys, which was coordinated by the Trump administration in the White House. So all of this is in an attempt to restore Israel's congenial relationship with Israel that was long-standing, but I think they've done irrevocable damage because of their assault on Gaza. They bombed the single Catholic church in Gaza. That's not going to make the Christian Zionists happy. And the idea that if they lose the Christian Zionists, I mean, that they're cooked. I mean, Christian Zionists were pivotal in forming the state of Israel in 1948.
They call it a focus group, and the stated intention is to collect and listen to the opinions of the young people. In reality, it sounded more like a struggle session. Sounded like more like a weird struggle session, like from Scientology or like from some sort of cult. And like every other cult, like Scientology or like any other multi-level marketing scheme or something like that, just like any other cult, it gives the appearance of an open atmosphere where people are free to express themselves. But in reality, there's sort of a sinister undercurrent. There's a weirdly hostile undercurrent that's barely veiled by a facade of false empathy. And again, the pretense was this is a focus group. We're here to listen. But like every other cult, just underneath the surface, it seems like there's an ulterior motive there. And the ulterior motive was to sort of finesse and massage what the students were saying, and to put words in their mouth, and to actually then mirror back to them, project back to them what Charlie Kirk wants them to be saying or wants them to be thinking. He's not acting as a good faith listener, but actually as a bad faith translator. His job is to listen to what you're saying and state something that sounds similar back to you, but is different in some key ways. And so many of the students were complaining about Israel. They said, we give them foreign aid. Many of them were actually well equipped. They sounded like groypers. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them were fans of my show. Among the complaints, they said, Israel spies on us. Israel was involved in the Epstein files. We've given Israel $300 billion since 1948. And that's comparable to the aid we gave to Ukraine, but nobody talks about that. They said that Israel dragged us into this war with Iran. They said, in particular, the official position of the State Department up until the bombing began was that we wanted, as Americans, diplomacy and negotiations. But Israel vetoed that and bombed Iran and torpedoed those efforts. This is what Turning Point students were saying. It ran the full spectrum. They even talked about the Judeo-Christian myth. It ran the full spectrum. Almost every vector that you can think of how or why we might criticize Israel or Jewish power and our relationship with them. Almost everything. And Charlie Kirk is listening to the opinions of the students, but he's feeding them back this weird narrative. And this is very important. You have young people who, for the first time in their lives, or maybe for the first time in this country, young people are hearing this. For the first time, because of a liberalized social platform ecosystem, young people are getting to hear these ideas. Because, of course, previously, all of this was heavily censored. No one was allowed to say this on Fox News. No one was allowed to say this on Blaze TV, on PragerU, on Daily Wire. No one was allowed to say it anywhere.
The dissent was all suppressed. It was Fox News is controlled opposition to CNN, and that's obvious. You can't hold any even lukewarm opinions of Israel on Fox News, and CNN obviously is more critical on Israel than Fox News, but there's still, you had Van Jones advocating for war with Iran. He was saying how they chant death to America, and it'll be good to go in and destroy their nuclear sites. So they're all linked at the hip. It's a Unitarian party. It's a collective propaganda arm of the government.
And if you did say it like I did, you got canceled. And you were censored, you were blacklisted, you were smeared. People said, don't listen to that guy. That guy's a hater. And so for many years, people could not even hear these things, let alone feel comfortable believing them or thinking about them or, God forbid, saying them out loud. Now you have all these young people who are mainstream, relatively normal looking, in college, at Turning Point, saying these things. And this is a very positive development because, of course, we do have a real problem. As I said, it's a problem for the Israelis that people are becoming hip to this, but it's good for us that people are becoming aware. And it seemed that Charlie Kirk's job was to take all of the complaints and chew them up for them and spit back out something digested, which is something like this. Well, you don't have a problem with Jews. Well, we shouldn't talk about Israel too much. Well, we're not cheering for Iran. Well, we're not anti-Semites here. Real anti-Semitism is creepy. All we want is this. We just want this. All we're saying is this. Now, whenever you hear words like that, understand what those words are. They're minimizing the issue. They're minimizing, they're circumscribing. Do you know what it means to circumscribe? It means to draw a boundary around, a boundary, a gate, a fence. His job was to say, I'm hearing all these things, so what you're telling me is all we really want is to focus on housing. And let's not talk about Israel. All we're saying is we don't want foreign aid. We want to decouple in terms of foreign aid from Israel. We're just saying this. We're only saying this. All we're saying is this. Minimize the issue. Create a new false category of people that are criticizing the Netanyahu regime and Jew haters. I'm going to tell you what's acceptable to criticize and complain about and how to criticize and complain about, while also necessarily, by negation, telling you what's outside of bounds. What's inside of bounds? You're allowed to say we can't give Israel foreign aid. You're allowed to criticize the Netanyahu government.
The conflation of anti-Semitism and criticism of the Israeli government is just the most absurd amalgamation possible. I mean, it's borderline just a denial of the First Amendment right.
Criticize Judaism itself. Say that Jewish people have a dual loyalty to Israel because they're Jewish. That has implications for our domestic security. Talk about this idea, Israel having a right to exist. Does it follow then that they have a right to ethnically cleanse Gaza and that we have to help them? All of that is outside of bounds, and that's Jew hatred and that's anti-Semitism.
Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb? Huh? Play me like a dummy, like bitch. Are you dumb? Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb? Huh?
The two main things that everybody's seeing through are feminists and the fake Jewish Zionists who are cosplaying, manipulating, personifying Venus in every way, in every right. Mars attacks the body. Venus attacks the character. Mars strong arms. Venus manipulates. They both are equally dangerous. Man, woman, masculine, feminine. They have their own routes to oppression, and they have their own routes to justice equally. Israel and feminist liberals, they all are in the expression of Libra, Venus, South Node. That is who they are. The who gon' check me boo crowd. The swirlies on the side with the bonnets. fake ass snuffleupagus eyelashes, ghetto ass feminists, white girls too. The spirit of feminism, all of this, it's the same energy. As the people realize one, they realize every last one of their asses. Whatever happens from a collective standpoint with Israel, it automatically happens with the feminist collective. They are the same person. They are the same being. They are the same expression. They are the same energy. They are the same frequency. They operate the same. They hit you in the dark and they come in the light as a victim. Ooh, I'm weak. I'm a damsel in distress. I should have protection. Who's going to protect us? We should be protected. Ooh, the Holocaust, the Holocaust. Nobody said anything about King Leopold of Congo, who took out, what was that, 15 million compared to the 6 million, which neither one is good, neither one is right. Both should be denounced. But why was it that Hitler received more infamy? Why did the Holocaust receive far more attention and notoriety, long lasting, than even the numbers of King Leopold of the Congo? Why is that? Same thing with feminists. They have the most false, delusional claims, a list of delusion. In all of their cries and woes and complaints, their crocodile tears, self-inflicted victimhood and oppression, self-inflicted traumas. They abuse people through the leverage of the female principle in the state, family court, divorce court, public privilege. They get to abuse others, but nobody can abuse them. They get to harm others, but nobody can harm them, as they shouldn't. But you go in the office, the work environment, family or domestic issues. This is not all women. Once again, let me clarify. I'm talking about the spirit of feminism. You don't stand a chance against the tears of a woman. And just because a woman is crying don't mean that somebody wronged her, and it don't mean that somebody has been unjust to her. You have to actually take the time to figure out what is the issue, because these bitches be lying. There's nobody walking the earth who can deny that, man or woman. Man lie, woman lie, but goddamn the way women lie. In this age, in this generation, females, feminism has taken them over. The implications, the incrimination, got men shook at the gym, got men shook at work, got men shook in their own house. Every transit right now is trying to get us decentralized because we were desensitized to the spiritual forces that's supposed to be guiding and protecting us. We're disconnected, alienated from the source, from the core. A bunch of fucking dumbasses in the nation Just falling for everything, drinking the fucking Kool-Aid, believe everything they show you and tell you. Oh, you think it's all real? Look at him drive that plane into that building. Oh, oh. That was a terrible, tragic event. But rather or not, it was organic. Is another story. What remains consistent is the tragedy of the value of life. That remains consistent. But why it happened? Oh, we have something to study there. And you tell me how a building with iron infrastructure collapses in that fashion? Yeah, okay. See, it's for dumb people to believe. And you should respect yourself enough and take pride in yourself enough not to want to be among some dumbass motherfuckers.
Media, right? But do you think that it's just capitalism? Like, don't you think a lot of times it's just business, and that's how business works, is that like it's one of the side effects of capitalism?
If that were the case, so the reason why this is different is because Israel is actually the exception. They are the only country that's allowed to lobby Americans. Like everyone else has to register as a foreign agent under FARA.
Like with AIPAC or whatever?
Yeah, so AIPAC, the backstory, by the way, before JFK got shot, he was fighting AIPAC. They were previously called, I'm blanking on this, you can look it up. And he was literally saying you have to register under the Foreign Act.
Is that true? Let's look it up.
1000% true, and you should look it up. We should fact check that live. He was fighting with what is today known as AIPAC. Was renamed AZCPA. I don't know what that stood for.
In 1959, AZCPA was renamed AIPAC, and American Israel Public Affairs Committee, reflecting a broader membership and mission.
Yeah, so JFK told them that they had to register under FARA. And so American Zionist Council, that's exactly what it was called.
Okay, American Zionist Council was a pro-Israel lobby in the United States founded in 1949. It represented 9 nationwide Zionist organizations in matters related to...
See at the bottom there? In 1962, look at the last paragraph. In 1962,
President John F. Kennedy and his brother Bobby, as a U.S. Attorney General, forced the AZC to register as a foreign agent. In doing so, they were barred from making monetary contributions to U.S. officials. Who was barred? AZC?
Yeah, so AIPAC, for lack of a better term. They were called AZC back then, but continued to send out newsletters and hold events with a nonprofit tax exemption. Mm-hmm. And then what happened was he was shot. So he literally, they were writing him letters. You can find this. This is available information. And he was like, you need to register, you need to register, you need to register. And then we told you to register. Why are you not registering? This makes no sense. And then AIPAC got lucky because he got shot and killed.
What also you could
So they are the reason why I'm bringing this up is not to further conspiracy theories.
Country?
They're the only country that's allowed to lobby Americans are not registered under the FARA Act. And so when you see these
under the
people,
what act?
FARA. So that's like if you're a foreign agent, you have to basically register, your communications are monitored, all of this stuff. But for whatever reason, Israel is an exception to this. And the reason is because JFK got shot, because otherwise they would have been under this. So that is the reason that they're allowed to do this. And so, when this... And then, of course, we're not allowed to read the files, but leading up to his death, he was having arguments with the prime minister, Ben Gurion. That's a fact, another fact. He was having heated arguments with Ben Gurion, and then look it up.
Like I'm saying, the privilege of feminists and the privilege of liberal expression in society and the privilege of Israel, it is one expression. That is South Node Libra. That is detriment of Venus. It is the manipulative expression of Venus, the false light, the Luciferic light of Venus. South Node Libra was about ending these abuses of power and leverage. The South Node Virgo is what initiates that separation of the being standing consumed by Venus's dark forces. The number 9 energy of Virgo South Node, it works against the detriment of Venus. And it brings you to the center of the Christ impulse through rebirth. On the other side of that is the Ahrimanic impulse. Understand, that is Capricorn shadow. Capricorn Pluto transit that we are coming out of. Do we see the picture? There are 3 crosses on the hill. Jesus looked to one who was a thief and said that that thief was forgiven and seen him in heaven. That was the Luciferic impulse. In the center was the Christ impulse. And to the other side of that was the Ahrimanic impulse, who was not forgiven, who could not be reformed. I'm trying, people. I'm giving it all I got. And what I've mostly run into in the past is people's objections through their attachments to what they want to be true. And only your shadow work through Scorpio can save you from that.
Israel or something, or part ownership or whatever, just tell us that.
Right. Well, they don't want to.
Like, that's the weird thing I don't understand. Like,
because then you wouldn't sign up for wars. You would start to question things in a different way. And so it becomes important for the government to keep Americans ignorant of how Congress works, what's going on, so that they believe their congressman when they go on a rant and say, Israel's our friend and ally, and they don't know how to just very easily look up and see whether this guy's taking money, or when someone says, this vaccine's going to save your life, and they don't know, what's happened with the CDC, or people don't even have basic civics understanding, but that's by design.
I can't emphasize this point enough that Candace Owens just made. People don't understand enough about civics, but it's by design. I'm giving it all I got to emphasize civics and to expose the fact that we were made ignorant of civics, and it was not an accident. And it's our duty to enlighten ourselves about civics. It's our responsibility. You are obligated to know better. Ignorance of the law in earth and ignorance of law in spirit are not excused. You should say that 10 more times so that you could really, really, really know that you didn't underestimate what I just said.
Like, because I don't like what Israel, like their space in Gaza, right? Like that to me is just like seems super tyrannical. But didn't they just come up with a thing today about the ICC? They can't prosecute Netanyahu.
Reba here, selling your home. Don't settle for just any old agent. You want to get real results with Realtor.
Yeah, because he runs shit.
Is that today?
Yeah, he's like the ultimate gangster. He's like, even when they catch him doing the crimes, and we created this court for exactly what it did, they said, you can't do this. Then they say, well, just cancel the courts. Can you imagine being like that much of a worldwide gangster? It's crazy.
Right. And I wish they would just say, look, we're still letting everybody be gangsters, because that's what I don't like about the media a lot of times. There's this thing, it's like we all need to look out for each other, and we need like climate change, and we need to make sure that everybody has a safe place to urinate and all those things, which, yeah, I think all those things are important or worth discussion. But at the same time, you'll have countries that are still playing this Fidel Castro type of role. So it's like, why do we keep saying all these little things are important, but you can just say, hey, we're still in colonial, or we're still in the old school days, and shit is what it is.
Yeah.
So fucking mark off your fence yard and protect your fucking shit, because that's what countries are doing. Like, that's how they're operating, but they're trying to create ambiance that makes us feel like we can't operate like that, or you're a bad person if you do operate like that.
Right. They're actually morally pretentious. They're pretending it's like, oh, we've just gotten, we're so dignified, we would never do this. Look, if it's the rules of the jungle, it's the rules of the jungle. Let us know.
Right. That's it. That's my
illusion.
biggest thing.
It's this illusion of we're better. We would never. Oh, because of World War II. You're doing all of it, right? You're violating every single one of these codes that you put into place. And if you're going to do it because I'm big and you're small, then say that. So like,
Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb? Huh? Play me like a dummy, like bitch. Are you dumb? Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb?
What Candace is describing here is the nature of Venus detriment. Every archetype of Venus, when it is not in proper illumination or balance, it falls into these expressions. Thus, feminism does the same thing that she just described. Liberals do the same thing that she just described. And Israel does the same thing. They all are the same energy. South Node Libra, Venus. That is what that energy does. She is describing the detriment of Venus, in which the South Node Virgo is rescuing us from that by standing between us and our impulse to manipulation, to justify our sense of entitlement throughout the earth. Do we understand that?
so like the small guys know what's up. It's the rules of the jungle.
That's my thing. I just want to know what the rules are. If America is owned by China and Israel and Taiwan, just tell me that. Let me know. Like, because at a certain point, if you keep,
What you're talking about, by the way, there's a term for it. It's called real politicking.
Real politicking.
Yeah, so I did
That's
like
all I want. I
foreign
just wanna
policy
know.
paper. It's like I'd rather know that we're working with cartels in South America because we are, right?
Yeah.
And like that's cool, CIA, like whatever. Just like please stop the pretentious. Oh, your face. Oof. Oof.
Yeah, that's
the American
scoffing.
government. It's the scoffing. We would never. Yes, you would. Yes, you have, and yes, you are. And people that know real politicking.
Let me look at real politicking.
Yeah.
Is the approach of conducting diplomatic or political policies based primarily on considerations of given circumstances and factors rather than strictly following ideological, moral, or ethical premises.
Right. And so if they're like, yeah, here's the thing, cartels are getting big in the South. And so, yeah, morally, we shouldn't work with the cartels. But also, if we let the cartels keep growing and El Chapo keep growing, then you know what? Then Mexico could become stronger than us. So we're going to do deals with the cartel. Like that's realpolitik, right?
Or say, Israel is we are partners to the end, and this is how it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of conflicted about Trump, like with his stance on Gaza, right? To me, that's like,
I totally disagree with him on it. And it's like, it's hard to reconcile it in many ways. It's hard to reconcile because I see so much hypocrisy in terms of when we say America first, for whatever reason, we have this magic carve out. And you cannot pretend that that's not because AIPAC spends $100 million in our election. And this gets back to what we were talking about, whether it's Big Pharma, whether it's Israel, everyone's for sale in DC. And so I have been very disappointed with Trump on his perspectives about Gaza. I have been disappointed, by the way, he's the last person I'm disappointed with, because I've been disappointed, as we saw all last year, with the conservatives, people that say they're Christians who are condoning this on the basis of what? Like you're saying, oh, well, they're Muslims, so who cares? And that gets into our programming, which I've spoken about in my podcast, of this 9/11 programming where we just don't see Muslims as like human life. And to to me, to speak about Gaza and talking about casinos and hotels, and these people just lost their entire families. Yeah. It's so far removed from humanity, and I think it's wrong. And I'm tired of America being used as Israel's piggyback. For whatever reason, everyone can critique every other country for taking money from us, and then there's just everyone's blind when it comes to Israel. And obviously, I paid a very heavy price for saying that last year, but I don't care because I am truly someone whose values have never been up for sale. Like, I don't care. I will burn everything to the ground and rebuild it. I have to be able to sleep at night and to see those Palestinian children, and the images are seared into my brain. The screaming, the crying, the bleeding, the stuff that we saw on X for the first time, largely thanks to Elon freeing the bird. And
you hear what she just said, all right? She said, thanks to Elon freeing the bird, okay? So this goes back to, again, when Elon purchased Twitter, that was the beginning of the Civil War. Okay, the ethereal Civil War, the polarization of divine masculine and divine feminine through Mars and Venus. North Node Aries, South Node Venus, Gemini Mars retrograde, which took 7 to 9 months. This is what she's referring to. It was that platform of Elon Musk, Twitter, now X, which was the only place where anybody could give an honest opinion, because feminism, liberalism, and Zionist, through Obama, gave longevity to cancel culture, to where you no longer could have a real, authentic expression or opinion without penalty, without consequence. You will stand to lose something behind it. Anything you look at with Israel, it is the same with feminists, and it is the same with liberals, because they are the same expression. South Node Libra. Oh, what about men? Well, what about men? Bitch, ain't nobody talking about no fucking men right now. We got our demons. But was the South Node at Aries? I did. Wait the fuck until the South Node goes to Aries, then talk about that shit. Until then, shut the fuck up. Write a letter to God and complain. The South Node was at fucking Libra. Get over yourself.
And really realizing how much we had been lied to about what was happening in that region, I just, it was very easy for me to say, take whatever you have to take from me. I have to be on the human side of things.
I think it's become both sides of the aisle now just see that, human people just feel like this is that it's just wrong.
Of course.
What's happened is wrong. Like probably a year ago, people were afraid to even say that. And now it is what everybody is saying. Like even Piers Morgan is saying it on his show now. Like people are saying it's obvious that you can't go and annihilate and genocide this culture and make them disappear. And then Trump to come on top of it and say they're going to build, you're going to go on a lazy river where there's bodies of who could even go to that?
And what's so crazy is the mainstream media thinking that we're so stupid that they're going to condition us to believe that to not support the ethnic cleansing, they're then going to mine our preconditioned beliefs about the Holocaust and be like, oh, well, a Jewish person died. So if you don't agree with what we're doing over here, then you're a person that wants more Jewish people to die. It's like, this is an evil way to try to socially engineer what you want, because actually it's precisely because of what I learned growing up about Holocausts and ethnic cleansings that I do not support what the state of Israel is doing. And you're trying to convince me that it means that if anybody's been wronged in the past, they can't wrong people in the future. You're also wrongly conflating a Jewish American. Why? You have nothing to do with what's going on in Israel. This is a foreign country. No more than if right now we were standing up to a genocide that was happening in Ghana.
Yeah.
And then when I'm going to be like, oh, well, if you don't support what, the the president of Ghana wants to do, then you want American slavery back. I'm like, it's like, what are you talking about? Just because I'm black and like maybe my family is from Ghana, why on earth would I not be able to critique a foreign country for something that they're doing that is so objectively wrong?
Yeah.
And so it's disappointed me as someone who just had so much respect and belief in the conservative movement and believing that it was a principled movement, and Christians as well. I've been very disappointed in Christians who are trying to use this like biblical argument for just, well, no matter what, like, you know.
Are people doing that?
Yeah, it's pretty sick, man. It is very sick. They're basically saying that the Bible, the Bible will bless those who bless Israel. And I'm like, okay, so we have a country who first and foremost doesn't have to give us back our pedophiles. Literally, they have this weird rule that you can go if you're Jewish and hide as a pedophile. And actually an amazing Jewish organization did the work there. You could pull it up. I think it was on CBS. I forgot what the name of the Jewish organization, but they went to Israel and was like, why are we harboring pedophiles?
So there was a Jewish organization that they had pedophiles.
They did amazing. No, they were not the pedophiles. They did the investigation to show how people are using, how like people who have molested children in America, if they're Jewish, they can then make their trip to Israel and be protected by the government. And Israel doesn't have to they literally don't have to,
exposing
CBS News, that second one.
How Jewish American
You will not
pedophiles
find a single person who says that that's wrong.
hide from justice in Israel. But can't they hide? Can't most people say so these are people that are Israeli citizens?
No, they can then become Israeli citizens. They're American, right? So if they're being on a trial, you get to Israel, they'll protect you. And so they went to where all these, pedophiles are, and spoke a lot about, this, or I can't remember the name of the organization, but they did amazing work there. Jewish Community Watch, that's what it is. And so that's what I mean, where it's like there's also this wrong conflation that annoys me as well, because you have Jewish organizations who will objectively say this is wrong. They recognize they are Americans. They don't support pedophiles. And yet the mainstream media is trying to conflate them and make them think that they have to defend the actions of this state. And yeah, if you even talk about this, so say it's anti-Semitic, talk about this. What are you talking about? You're taking billions. That's the difference here. This is a country that is taking billions and billions and billions. It's an American welfare state, And CBS jumped on it. A CBS News investigation has found that many accused American pedophiles flee to Israel, and bringing them justice can be difficult.
Okay, has been trying for years to find
Caro's
Caro
one
and
of
help bring
them.
to justice. So Jimmy Caro, he's a wanted man and is considered dangerous, accused of assaulting a 9-year-old girl in Oregon in 2000. He fled to Israel before authorities in the U.S. could apprehend him. But is this just one guy?
No. So this is a story about how they are doing this. Like, it's the main story is like that they were investigating is that there's so many people that did this.
Why do they allow it?
Because they have special consideration and they are not allowed, they don't have to give us back our pedophiles. I don't know. I never understand these random Israeli loopholes. And it's ridiculous. And the fact that they can just call people anti-Semitic, it's just like a sweeping allegation. How dare you notice that this is happening over here? You anti-Semite. And it's like, we have every right to critique this nation because you take money from us, especially, right? That means when we go to work and taxes are being taken away, we're paying to support this.
Well,
And then we're being
I know that
gaslit by the media who's telling us that critiquing them in any way is an act of hatred for Jews, which is just such a nonsense.
Again, South No Libra. That's what this was about, okay? You got anything to say that doesn't worship them, that doesn't praise them, that doesn't lift them up, that doesn't flatter them, that doesn't paint some great image of them? You're in trouble. It goes that way. Listen to me. It goes that way for the feminist, for the liberal, which includes gay people. It also goes that way for Israel. Those are the three characters of society, or four characters of society, who you can only say something flattering about, or else you're held in contempt. South Node Libra. All right, done. If you still with me, let's go ahead and listen to Uncle Bernie. You heard? We gonna talk. We gonna listen to what Uncle Bernie got to say. You know what I mean? So let's listen to Unc real quick. Sit back, relax. You heard?
Thanks very much for joining me. Let me be frank. I have no idea what is in the Epstein files, who is in the Epstein files, or whether or not these files actually even exist. But this I do know. Jeffrey Epstein was an extremely wealthy guy who hung out with some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in our country and the world, including Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, multiple billionaires, and Donald Trump. And this I also know. During his presidential campaign, Donald Trump said very clearly that he would release the Epstein files. My response, Mr. President, do it. Do what you promised the American people you would do, and stop trying to deflect attention away from what you promised. Be transparent the way you promised you would be. Tell the truth like you promised. Because hiding whatever he's hiding with the Epstein files is not the first time, to say the least, that he has lied to the American people. He promised that his big, beautiful bill wouldn't touch Medicaid. Instead, the bill is going to take away Medicaid from 17 million Americans. Why is he slashing Medicaid? So we can give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and $900 billion in tax breaks to the corporate world. In other words, he is making his very rich friends much richer while making life harder for working families. But that is not all. Trump is attacking every single day the very foundations of American democracy. He is usurping the responsibilities of Congress and is illegally refusing to allocate the money that Congress appropriated for education, housing, and other basic needs. He is ignoring court decisions that he doesn't like and attacking universities who are teaching courses he doesn't like. He's going after law firms that represented clients he doesn't like. Further, he doesn't like a free press, and he doesn't want criticism. He has sued ABC, Meta, the Wall Street Journal, and CBS, and he has cut funding for PBS and NPR. Enough is enough. Too many Americans have fought and died to defend freedom and democracy, to defend the First Amendment and the right to dissent. That is what makes America great. Whether Donald Trump likes it or not, we are and will remain a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, not a country run by a bunch of billionaire oligarchs who want to move this country to an authoritarian society. Thank you.
I know this is a little marathon, you know what I mean? But the point has to be made. It got to be driven home. You know what I'm saying? We can't afford to slip back into the slump of complacency. We can't afford that. Niggas got to wake up. It's the time where you got to wake the fuck up. You know what I mean? Wake your ass the fuck up. Wake up. Get it together. Throw some water on your face. Let's go.
Your ranch in New Mexico or New York or Florida or Paris, thinking that they're going to be hanging out like Prince Andrew's dumbass thought, and the next thing you know, you're hanging out with a 17-year-old and they got you. So for those of you that don't know, here's Jeff Epstein, right? Obviously disgraced American financier that is, obviously is Jewish, right? Supporter of Israel. And here's his backer, Leslie Herbert Wexner, okay, American billionaire, businessman, and co-founder, chairman emeritus of Bath and Body Works, Inc., okay, owns a bunch of different brands, Victoria's Secret, etc. Right? This guy, Les Wexner, was Epstein's financial backer. Epstein, whatever you guys want to call it, right? He was his financial backer. He is the reason why Epstein had the amount of money and resources that he had. And we're going to also figure out the women as well, okay? Now, Ghislaine Maxwell was his right-hand woman, helping him out with, making things happen. And we're going to talk about this in a bit more detail. Then you guys got here Jean-Luc Brunel, okay? This guy was a model recruit. He was a French model scout. He gained prominence by leading the international modeling agency Karen Models and founded MC2 Model Management with financing by Jeffrey Epstein, which we know his financing came from who? Les Wexner. Les Wexner was the financial backbone of Jeffrey Epstein because no one knew how Epstein had all this goddamn money. Well, it came from this guy, Wexner. And Jean-Luc Brunel was the guy that was recruiting the models. He died in 2022 through mysterious means in a prison just like your boy Epstein. Okay? Ghislaine Maxwell is currently in prison. She's alive. She's in federal prison right now. She's incarcerated in Tallahassee, right here in Florida. Okay, it's a low-security United States federal prison for female inmates in Tallahassee, Florida, with a designated capacity of 812. Right? And she got sentenced to some significant amount of time. Yeah, 20 years. Okay? Then her father, Robert Maxwell, okay, who was a Czechoslovak-born British media proprietor, politician, and fraudster. And I think the most important thing for you guys to understand is that, yes, he's one of them boys. As all of these people are, except for Jean-Luc Brunel. They're all them boys when you check that early life. Okay? Jean-Luc Brunel, I don't think, was one of them. He was French, but I don't think he was... Nope, he was not. Okay. But everyone else is. And the other thing that's important for you guys to realize is that Robert Maxwell was a spy for the Mossad. You don't believe me? Here's how I know. He went ahead and got this guy, Mordecai Vanunu, put in prison. Why? Because Mordecai Vanunu was a whistleblower on Israel's secret nuclear program. Okay? He went to the press in the 80s, revealed the details of Israel's nuclear weapon program to the British press in 1986, and was subsequently lured to Italy by the Israeli intelligence and Mossad, where he was drugged and abducted. Guess who snitched on him that got him picked up in Italy? Robert Maxwell. Because Robert Maxwell owned the news company that Mordecai Vanunu wanted to sell the story to. Okay? Give me ones in the chat if this all makes sense so far. Because I need you guys to understand who's who and their connections. Again, Jeffrey Epstein, the financier, Ghislaine Maxwell, his right-hand woman, her father, former spy for Mossad, Mordecai Vanunu, who got snitched on by Robert Maxwell, right? Just to prove it to you guys that he was a spy. And Jean-Luc Brunel, who was the model finder / recruiter, and Les Wexner, who was the backbone financially. Give me ones if this all makes sense to you so I can go ahead and explain how the fuck this all works. And now that you guys got faces to the names, we're going to go through a little history lesson. All right. So the other thing that we need to understand also is the mega group. And yes, the mega group was an informal group of influential Jewish entrepreneurs involved in Jewish affairs. It was founded in 1991 by Les Wexner and Charles Bronfman, okay, another guy that's also in the Epstein ring, as a study group. The group met twice yearly for philanthropy and Judaism seminars. It is said to have had 50 members, including Hollywood director Steven Spielberg. Wexner led the group with Bronfman, and it inspired several philanthropic initiatives such as the Partnership for Excellence in Jewish Education, Birthright Israel, and support for the renewal of Hillel International. The group became known to a wider public through a Wall Street Journal report in May 1998. As a pro-Israel group, lobby group, the organization is also said to have tried to influence U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. In 2003, it employed Republican political consultant Frank Luntz to help the group mobilize support for Israel. The group also said to have had contacts with Israeli intelligence agency Mossad and to have served as a base for intelligence operations in the United States. Jeffrey Epstein is said to have used the group to build up his network of high-ranking contacts in business, media, and politics. The billionaire Wexner was a major financial supporter of Epstein and later claimed to have known nothing of his criminal activities. Okay? So now we went over Epstein, Les Wexner, the mega group, Jean-Luc Brunel, Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert Maxwell, Mordecai Vanunu, and we went over Charles Bronfman, who, let's go ahead and bring him in as well. Charles Bronfman, also one of them, is a Canadian-American businessman and philanthropist and is a member of the Canadian Jewish Bronfman family with an estimated net worth of $2.5 billion in 2023. Bronfman was ranked by Forbes as the 1,217th wealthiest person in the world. Born into a Jewish family in Montreal. So, a lot of people wonder, how the hell did Jeffrey Epstein do this and do it for so long without being caught? So, this is how the scheme worked. chat. Epstein is a member of the mega group, as you guys know, a group of influential and wealthy, successful Jewish billionaires and entrepreneurs and philanthropists, etc., who had a dual mission to support Israel from the United States from a financial perspective, as well and have ties to Mossad, and also lobby for Israel's behalf and, support birthright, get people to go to Israel, fall in love with the country, move there, serve in the IDF, etc. And Jeffrey Epstein, a member of the mega group. The mega group run by Les Wexner. Les Wexner, the billionaire that funds everything, owns Bath & Body Works, Inc., which also owns Victoria's Secret, which means they have a steady supply of models, attractive women, right, for Victoria's Secret. Jean-Luc Brunel, he would go ahead and get the models, okay? These models would be given to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the socialites. They'd go to the parties. They'd meet powerful people, compromise them. Once they're compromised, they got them. Once they got them, then they can ask favors, blackmail them, etc., and basically go ahead and influence them. With this information, they sell to intelligence agencies, such as the Mossad, etc., and that is what Epstein basically did. Compromise powerful people through sexual blackmail, entice them first with the attractive of-age models at these parties, then bring them to your ranch in New Mexico or New York or Florida or Paris, thinking that they're going to be hanging out like Prince Andrew's dumbass thought, and the next thing you know, you're hanging out with a 17-year-old and they fucking got you. Bitch. And then you're doing interviews on 60 Minutes looking like an ass clown, sweating. Don't know what's going on. Bill Clinton, etc. So that is what Epstein did. That's how they ran it. And Jean-Luc Brunel, since he was a model scout, he also would supply Epstein with underage female models, as well as the underage females that Epstein had from the local high school that he was recruiting with his massage ring. And he would fly them around to his many different homes. And that's how he ended up getting charged for sex trafficking federally later on, because these underage girls were being trafficked to multiple states and multiple countries to service his clients. Give me ones in the chat that makes sense. That is an overview. I hope I explained that well for you guys, nice and succinctly, so you guys understand who Jeffrey Epstein was and how he did it and how he used his girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell and her contacts to make this happen. Give me ones that all makes sense.
Are you dumb, stupid,